the reason why I started Minority Mindset, the YouTube channel, was because a previous business that I was launching got scammed. I had to keep every entrepreneurial venture that I did a secret. And the only time they started to be okay with it was like when I started getting on the news.
Finding something that sticks, most of the time it is accidental. I think a lot of people, they imagine the entrepreneur as being someone who is sitting in bed and they think like, I just have this beautiful idea.
I'm like, you haven't made a single video and you put $5,000 into your channel and you have no idea what you're doing. I never understood what risk meant until really like now,
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching The Plain Bagel. Welcome to another Plain podcast, is I think the title we're going with this new series, where we talk to a bunch of different individuals, both those who work in the field and those in unique financial situations who have kind of achieved very unique things and have gotten to points where a lot of us aspire to be. And today I have the privilege of speaking to Jaspreet Singh of the Minority Mindset, which is one of the bigger personal finance channels we actually have on the platform. So really cool to have you on. For those of you who don't know, Jaspreet is an entrepreneur who went from running a number of businesses, from a party company to even an athletic sock brand that he made himself, to now running a personal finance suite of profiles and sites under the Minority Mindset brand. Jaspreet, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on, and I'm excited to have a plain interview.
Hey man, that's it's kind of a funny thing to advertise yourself as being plain. But honestly, I think a lot of people just like to hear, very basic information from people without all the glitter and stuff. And knowing me, that's
well, I have a feeling this is not going to be plain. But
I appreciate that.
It'll be a good time.
For those of you who might not be familiar with your channel or what you post, could you give a brief description of kind of the content that you put out on the Minority Mindset?
Sure. The Minority Mindset has nothing to do with the way you look, your ethnicity, or your skin color. It's the mindset of thinking differently than the majority of people. And so in our case, on the Minority Mindset YouTube channel, we're talking more on the financial side of things. So we talk very differently about how to manage your money, how to invest your money, and how to become wealthy, because the majority of us are never taught how to manage our money the right way. And when we are taught about how to use our money, we're taught the wrong things to do. So the Minority Mindset is all about really just me teaching the things I wish I knew when I was growing up. And it's just that mindset of thinking different.
So you've been posting videos for about 5 years now, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's 6 now.
Awesome. And you've gone from that to now being a keynote speaker at Fincon. So that was just this past weekend, I think, actually.
Yeah, just a week or two. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
That's awesome. I've never gone to Fincon. What is kind of that experience? What is Fincon to someone who's never been?
Fincon is the largest financial media conference in North America. So you have thousands of financial brands. You got YouTubers, bloggers, podcasters coming together. Then you also have a whole bunch of financial companies like fintech companies. So you have a whole bunch of banks and stock apps and investment companies there, just meeting each other, hanging out and learning how to grow your brand. So yeah, it was an awesome being the keynote speaker there, talking to just a whole bunch of people that are looking to grow their businesses, talking about my journey, talking about YouTube. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So it's like a Comic-Con for finance nerds.
Yeah, kind of.
I love that. That sounds like my bag.
They call it where money nerds unite.
Ah, cool. I love that. So before kind of hopping into your story and how you got to this place where you are today, could you talk a bit about why did you decide to start posting videos about money versus, say, anything? Like, what is it about money that interests you and that makes you want to post videos about finance?
Well, it wasn't intentional. I started YouTube as a hobby. I never grew up learning about entrepreneurship or financial education or investing. These were things that I never knew. These were things that were never talked about in my household. In fact, they were things that were discouraged because I grew up in a traditional Indian house, and my parents always told me that if I wanted to become successful, I need to go out and become a doctor. Go study hard in school, become a doctor, and you will be successful. And don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about playing sports. Don't worry about investing and money management. All those things will come because when you're a doctor, everything just falls into place. But I have this tendency to kind of be stubborn, and I really like to question the things that I do and why I do them and why people do things. And that's what really got me curious about entrepreneurship. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I think I've always just had this entrepreneurial bug. That's something that's just me.
Right.
Where I love the idea of creating value and creating something. That's something I love to do. And I was doing that since I was a kid. I was mowing my neighbor's lawns. I was delivering newspapers for 7 cents a house when I was a kid. And then even in high school, I started my first like kind of smaller businesses. I was working at weddings, playing an Indian drum called the Tol, and I got to know a lot of the DJs. And once I got to meet the DJs, we started hosting teen parties when I was in high school. So my junior and senior year in high school, I was hosting teen parties. Then I went on to college, and I didn't know what to expect in college because nobody in my family really grew up in America. Nobody went to college and did the higher education system in America. So I was didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And I assumed that everybody goes to college to really just study all day and all night. I assumed that Friday nights were time in the chemistry lab to put in extra hours to study. When I got to college, I was very wrong. I saw people partying left and right, and I couldn't believe it. And it sounds dumb. Like, I mean, looking back, it's like everybody knows like people go and party and have a lot of fun in college, but I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know what to bring to college. I brought 5 things with me to college. I brought like my microwave, a sleeping bag, a backpack, and like a couple other things. I did not have a towel. I didn't even have a pillow to sleep on during my first little time in college.
Jeez.
So I literally had no idea what was going on.
Right.
I just kind of went. And so when I saw everybody partying, I was like, this is nuts. First off, none of y'all have any money. You guys are all, living off of student loans. And second, you just blowing this time away? You got to be kidding. So that's when I started thinking differently than the majority of people, because I was like, well, I was hosting teen parties in high school. What if I take that same kind of idea, business model, bring it to college? So I started knocking on the doors at clubs and bars and restaurants, asking them, hey, can I throw a party here? And, I didn't have a lot of money. So I worked out deals saying, sure, you could throw a party here. You don't got to pay us any money. Just give us 50% of the cover that you charge. So if you're charging $10 a pop, they take 5, I take 5. And that's how my first real business started. I started hosting parties, which eventually grew to a whole event planning company. We were doing concerts and shows and a whole bunch of stuff. But that was my first real experience of like really, really understanding the difference between thinking like the majority of people and the minority of people.
Right.
So I did a bunch of ventures. I started investing in real estate. I started doing a whole bunch of different things. And the reason why I started Minority Mindset, the YouTube channel, was because a previous business that I was launching got scammed. And it was this fake marketing company that said, we're going to guarantee you such big results. We're going to give you X, Y, and Z. And even if you seem skeptical, don't worry. We have a 100% money back guarantee. And I was skeptical, but I said, all right, they got this money back guarantee. Let's try it out.
Right.
Gave them a decent chunk of our marketing budget, actually pretty much all of our marketing budget, and I never heard from them again. I mean, I called them. Yeah, I had a bad feeling. I called them and I tried to get my money back, and then they put me on hold, and then they blocked my call. It went from like hold to like and
just
so
totally cold shouldering you. Yeah, that's crazy. Was that a media company you were running at the time when that was scammed out?
It was an e-commerce company. It was a sock company you were mentioning.
Right. Okay.
So when that happened, I didn't know what to do because, the thing is entrepreneurs are good at turning problems into opportunities. And so I was like, okay, either I can cry and complain and be upset about this, or I can do something about it. And so the first thing I did was I created a class on Udemy, which is no longer there, on how to launch a business without getting screwed over. And I didn't really have a goal of making money. I was selling the course for like $7.
Right.
And everyone was like, oh, this is so cool. You should start an Instagram handle. And the alias for that class was Minority Mindset, because I was like, you really need to think differently than the majority of people. So I came onto Instagram, started posting content on Instagram. And then people were like, hey, start a blog. The problem was English is my second language. And so I'm not a good writer.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm not a good writer. So I was like, I can't blog, but I can talk. So I started a YouTube channel just for fun. I was doing a whole bunch of other things, and I just did it really just to educate people on how to launch a business without getting screwed over. Then I started talking about all the things that I wish I knew in the financial education side of things, meaning money, what is money, investing, and all these different kind of avenues of things that I didn't know. And now our YouTube channel has more than 1 million subscribers, and Minority Mindset has turned from a YouTube channel into a full financial media company. And so it's crazy kind of the way it worked, but it kind of happened on accident. So that's a long answer to your short question.
Yeah, well, I mean, that seems to be how things work, right? Is you mentioned kind of the entrepreneurial mindset of you just try things out, and I think finding something that sticks, most of the time it is accidental. I think a lot of people, they imagine the entrepreneur as being someone who is sitting in bed and they think like, I just have this beautiful idea that's come to mind. I'm going to try it out and see how it works. Most of the time it's like you mentioned, it's an accident or something like, let's try this and dip our toes in. And I think even with your party company that you mentioned, that sounds like a very kind of lean capital structure, if you will. Like you didn't go in like with $100,000 investment to get this thing started.
No money. It was when I started in high school, it was literally no money. We found a restaurant, same concept. They said, all right, don't pay us anything. We'll just take a percentage of the cover charge. And then I didn't have money to pay DJs or all any of that. So I said, all right, DJ was a friend of mine. How about you and I split the profits? So no money came out of my pocket. It was just, the money I made had to be split up a whole lot more. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's that willingness to find a way, because everyone's going to say, oh, well, I need $10,000 to book a venue and I got to pay a DJ and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, and you're going to make no money because you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, and the risk with that of, if something falls flat. And I mean, YouTube's kind of the same way, right? There's very little risk to uploading videos on YouTube.
Oh my God. It kills me when I hear people say, hey, I spent $5,000 to get all the right equipment, camera, lighting. Now I'm going to start making YouTube videos. And I'm like, you haven't made a single video and you put $5,000 into your channel and you have no idea what you're doing.
Oh, it's funny. I started on my iPhone. I think that was the camera I used was mind you, iPhone cameras not too bad, but
nowadays they're awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But I kind of agree with that approach of you see what sticks first and then you build up and realize once you know the opportunity where you kind of put your money.
100%.
But one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on is, first, you were actually one of the first kind of personal finance channels. When I started uploading, I hadn't really known the personal finance space, and you're one of the first channels I came across. So always your channel was kind of top of mind when I was thinking of people to talk to. But
thank you. I appreciate it. That means a lot.
Oh, of course. And on top of that, I think your story, especially compared to mine and probably a lot of people's, is very different. And I kind of want to talk to a diverse range of people in terms of their experiences. I come from the total opposite approach, a very traditional, go to school, get that education, work really hard, interview, get a 9-to-5 job that pays well, and work your way up that ladder. I come from that very traditional standpoint, and I like to talk to people who have done otherwise. You're someone who actually, you mentioned you went to college, and you went to law school, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So obviously, it sounds like you took this education, then you went a totally different direction. How do you kind of tell people, and whether they say they're interested in starting a business, where's that divide between having a safety net of education and just going out and trying something and taking a riskier approach?
So education was very important in my household.
Right.
The reason is because my parents came to this country with nothing. My dad came to this country with less than $100, didn't know the culture, didn't know the people, didn't know anyone, had to hustle. And he never took days off. He used to have a joke when I was a kid that there was no such thing as a sick day, because if you take a sick day, you're not working. If you're not working, you're not getting paid. If you're not getting paid, you don't have money to eat.
Right.
So it was a concept of you work 6 or 7 days a week, every single day, and you work long hours. I mean, early morning to early night or late night. And so when you come from that type of hustle where you either hustle or you don't eat,
right?
He wanted success for me, and the way that success looks, right? And if you check the boxes, it's through schooling. You go to school, you get a good degree. When you get a good degree, you get a good job. Now, that's how I was raised. And anything that was outside of that traditional norm was considered not just weird, but bad. The whole concept of entrepreneurship was not just like not encouraged, but it was not allowed.
Right.
Because when my parents found out that I was doing like entrepreneurial stuff, they were very, very angry. I had to keep every entrepreneurial venture that I did a secret.
No
And
kidding.
the only time they started to be okay with it was like when I started getting on the news. They saw my company. This was I think this is my sock company. This is the first time they started to be okay with it.
Right.
Was my parents got a call from one of their friends saying, "Oh, I just saw your son on the news." And they were like, "Oh, shoot, what did he do now?" They're like, "No, he's seeing a lot of success with this company." And they were like, "What?" And so before that, they hated the idea of entrepreneurship, but it didn't make sense to them. But once they started to see the success, then it was okay. And so every entrepreneurial venture that I did, not only did I have to like kind of do it in addition to school, it was for me something that I had to do in secrecy. It was like there's only certain people that I could tell, because if I told the wrong person and they told my parents, I'd be in a lot of trouble. And so it was really hard emotionally, physically, because now I was in college all day long. After classes, I was working all night long. And in the morning, I was working again. And it didn't stop on weekends, because Friday night, we'd host a party. We'd have
Right.
contracts with some of the biggest clubs to do college nights. So every I forget, Thursday or Fridays, we'd have a party. But when we had a party on Friday night, I wouldn't get done until 2 a.m. And then we'd be cleaning up and doing all that stuff until 3:30 a.m. Get
Right.
home at 4. And Saturdays are weddings. And Indian weddings last all day long. So I went to bed at 4 a.m. and I got to be at a wedding by 8 a.m. And this was now I'm working at a wedding all day long. And then Sunday, you start it all back up again. And so it was hard work. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it is not something that is taught, because the whole idea of entrepreneurship is it's being creative. It's thinking differently. And it's having that risk appetite of going out and doing it. Because I never understood what risk meant until really like now. What does
Fair.
risk mean? Risk is, hey, I could start a business and fail. Before, who cares? Who cares if I failed? Like, what do I got to lose? The
Right.
way I look at it is my family came to this country with nothing. So I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so some people, if you're not willing to take risks, you're not going to see the rewards.
Right.
And entrepreneurship is hard. I mean, it's a lot of work. I work a lot of hours. I work a lot of days. But you know what? I've reached a point where I can also choose when and where I want to work and how I want to work. I love what I do. Everything I do, I speak from the heart. I talk very passionately because these are things that I experienced. And sure, maybe what I say is not right for you, but everything I say, I can guarantee you I'm speaking from my heart. I'm speaking passionately about what I do.
You touched on something that I kind of want to talk about, which is kind of the idea that talking about money at home is taboo. You mentioned with your family specifically. Why do you think that is? And why do you think no one ever teaches their kids about money? Like some do, but it does seem to be rare that you have a parent sit you down and say, look, this is how the stock market works. This is how budgeting works and things like that.
It goes down to the fear of money and understanding money. A lot of us have insecurities about money. We're not happy with where we are financially. We're not happy with the way things are going financially. We're working really hard to save a little bit of money. We don't understand why we cannot get ahead. So we put up a smoke screen. Don't talk about money. It's bad. Yet at the same time, you're going to work every single day. And a lot of times it's to a job that you hate. Why?
Right.
To get a paycheck, to get paid. And everybody says, oh, I don't do what I do for money. Then tell your boss not to pay you. So it's understanding how money plays a part in your life. And this is one of the things that we have to start talking about if you want to ever become financially successful, if you want to be able to live happy. Because at the end of the day, sure, money by itself is not going to make you happy. But if you don't have money, you are not going to be happy.
I think part of it too is I feel like talking about money specifically, it sort of brings a vulnerability with it. I think a lot of people, they like to maintain this image that they're doing fine financially, and they don't want anyone to ever know. It's very vulnerable. You're put out kind of in the open when you do that, and it probably makes you feel naked to some degree.
It's kind of like trying to get in shape, but it's harder to hide it because hey, I can go to the Gucci store, put on new Gucci belt, get a new wallet, spend $2,000 on my credit card, even though I can't afford it. And now I can look rich, even though I'm not. And so, we have a lot of inner insecurities. And this also goes back to that mental fitness that I talked about, because you got to be confident in yourself. You have to be able to accept who you are, where you are. And once you can do that, you are going to be much more confident when you're going to realize, hey, I can't afford all this crap that I'm buying right now. So I'm going to stop buying this crap, and I'm going to get my finances in order. And when you do that, people are going to look at you like you lost your mind. Wait, Johnny, you were driving a BMW. Now you're driving a Honda Accord. Johnny, you were going to vacations every 6 months to the Bahamas. Now you're not. You were spending so much money at the mall. Now you stopped shopping. Is something wrong? And what's funny is people are going to think now that you're broke because you're not spending money. But in reality is you're becoming wealthier than you ever was.
Right.
And you have to have the confidence, that financial discipline to be able to do that.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case that, you look at the Warren Buffetts and the people with this exceptional amount of wealth. And, Warren Buffett famously drives an old car and has lived in the same house for decades.
He also has a private jet, though. And
that's
some other nice
sure,
things.
yeah. And I'm not saying Warren Buffett is limiting.
You got to know what's important to you.
Yeah, he's not limiting his indulgences. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. But at the very least, he doesn't appear, at least on the surface, to indulge himself in terms of these brands and things like that.
You don't feel the need to spend that money just to show it off.
Yeah, so
You do what's important to you.
why do you think that is, that people with less money tend to be the ones who are more interested in that social image? Do you think it's insecurity is kind of the main factor driving that?
I mean, it's one factor. It depends on the person. Second factor, it always has to do with financial education. If
Right.
people really understood, and I don't just mean they understood the real cost of everything that they're buying, which means not just how much money you're paying today, but the opportunity cost that you're losing. Because if you took that money and invested it in your wealth, what would your life look like in 5 years, 10 years, 30 years? If people understood the real cost of what they're doing, I think a lot of people would change their spending habits.
Right.
And that's one of the first keys to any sort of financial success, is you need to know how to spend your money.
On top of money, I don't think the entrepreneurial mindset is something that's taught. I think it's just something,
Never is.
You don't have parents telling you, you know what, you should risk it all and try this, business idea or whatever it be.
It's not for everyone.
Sure. And that's, part of it too is, how risk tolerant you are. And there's a joke about how there's a lot of hate against the 9 to 5 kind of work schedule. And then
That makes no sense. There's nothing wrong with working a job. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't look, there's hate against everyone and everything. I get hated on for making YouTube videos. I get hated on for the way I look. I get hated on for starting a business. You're going to get hated for working a job. You're going to get hated for investing your money. You're going to be hated for spending your money.
Sure.
You're going to get hated for everything. And there's nothing wrong with working a job. There's no shame in working a job. That's dumb. That makes no sense.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think likewise, between having a job like a 9 to 5 and being an entrepreneur, it's totally what fits your personality and your desires, and you kind of touched on it, your passions, because so the joke is people, they tell you, oh, don't work a 9 to 5 job, be an entrepreneur. You'll free up your schedule, and then as you become an entrepreneur, you realize that's totally not the case. You're working more than 12 hours a day at times and doing these crazy things. But what I will say is, I think where the reason people still do it, aside from the monetary gain that can come from starting your own business and things like that, is, like you said, the passion. I think entrepreneurship lets you, if you're able to find an idea that you're passionate about. They say, you won't work a day in your life. I don't totally agree with that, but you will love what you do at the end of the day. I want to touch a bit on part of the reason I want to start doing this sort of podcast, if you will, is aside from just talking about investing in general and stuff, is to kind of pull the curtain back a bit on personal finances and things like that. And as someone who has had this success, I was just curious if you'd be willing to kind of talk to people about not necessarily, what specifically you invest in, but I know early on, one of your first investments was in real estate.
Yeah.
Do you still invest in real estate these days?
Absolutely. So I invest in 5 areas: real estate,
Okay.
stocks, companies, cryptocurrency, and metals. So we can just go through them. Real
Sure.
estate. I love real estate. The reason why I love real estate is because, one, you own something physical, tangible, something that you can see, feel, and touch. And I like real estate because, it allows you to really bring in that entrepreneurial mind that you have, right? Taking something that, especially I like to find distressed properties, things that are beaten up, and then you can really
No kidding.
revitalize something, make it look nice. And it's cool. I love that, seeing a building that just like doesn't look good in a good area, and you can help really bring up a neighborhood by revitalizing a certain part. So I like that part of real estate. But on the financial side, you also could get cash flow, consistent, predictable cash flow, and tax breaks. So real estate, I love for that very reason. Now, in the market that we're in right now, we're in a very, very hot real estate market.
It's tough, yeah.
It's much tougher. And that doesn't mean I don't buy real estate. Although I did take some time off when the 2020 crash and pandemic was going on, because
Sure.
I had no idea
Lot
what
of
the heck was
madness.
going on. So I took
Right.
a break. But it's just me being more picky with the deals that I do buy. And is there going to be a real estate crash? Yeah, we don't know when. I mean, every asset class goes through cycles. But for me, I look for cash flow. I'm not buying properties to flip them for a profit. So even if property values go down, I'm okay because I'm investing for the cash flow. But for me, I'm just picky with the deals that I look for.
Right.
With stocks, I believe in the American economy. Obviously, you are Canadian, so it's
Hey, I love the American economy too.
yeah.
Close neighbors.
Close neighbors. Canada's the little brother of America. I'm just
we got more land, but I'll give you that. That's fine.
pulling your leg there a little bit. I like to mess with all my Canadian friends.
No worries.
No, but in stocks, I believe in the economy. So there's 2 ways that I invest in stocks. I have a passive method and a more active method. The passive method is every week I invest money into ETFs, and this is happening when the market's up. When the market's down, it doesn't matter. I just
Right.
keep investing my money into these funds because I believe in the economy. I believe in the future of the economy. Then I also have
Right.
a more of an active strategy where now I'm researching individual companies and I'm investing into these individual companies. But this is more when I find a deal, I find a company, something that this is cool, and I look at the numbers and this seems like it's undervalued to me, so now I want to buy this company and I want to hold it for a while, right? I'm not holding it for 6 months,
Right.
I'm holding it for years.
Right.
And so that's stocks. Third is companies. Obviously, Minority Mindset's a company that I invest in. Anytime we make money, the first place I invest is right back into the company. I also invest in startups.
Sure.
I love working with entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay.
I'm an entrepreneur myself, and
Right.
I love entrepreneurship. I love innovation. And so, I love that, I can add value to companies. I love that I can help advise in companies. So I like working with entrepreneurs. I mean, that's not for everybody. It's very high risk because, startups are going to fail. And
Right.
so, I just enjoy that. It's another thing that I just love doing.
Kind of living vicariously, you continue your entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
I guess.
You hit a point, like you just said, life gets busier. And especially as you're building
Right.
something of your own or whatever you're doing, you're going to hit a point where you just can't start another business. But you can invest in businesses and you can help them grow and have smart people building the business and just kind of be an advisor as opposed to be the person that's actually building it, because building a business is hard. It's a lot of work. And then you have cryptocurrency, which is the people's movement of money, and for me it's I look at cryptocurrency more as money than an investment per se, but it's the economy is changing, money is changing, and for me I like investing in or owning crypto, and then I have some cryptocurrency that's earning interest that gets lent out, and so there's a lot of platforms out there that allow you to just lend out your crypto and then you can earn interest on it, and then metals like gold. Because I could be wrong about the economy.
That's your insurance
It's
plan.
insurance right there. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the crazy things that happened in 2020, 2021. We saw it happen in 2008 with all the money printing, the dilution of the value of the dollar, inflation. I believe in the economy 100%. That's why I put my money in the stock market, but I could be wrong, which is why I own gold.
You hedge your bets a little bit. That's funny.
Exactly.
And to clarify for viewers, and actually I should ask you, is this physical gold you're buying, or do you use like a vehicle to own gold? Because I think a lot of people here buy, or I'd say gold, any whatever metal it is. A lot of people hear that and they don't fully understand. Like, do you have a warehouse somewhere full of precious metals, or what is it that you're using?
I don't have a
to
warehouse
buy these?
full of precious metals, but I have physical gold in a safe.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. That's so yeah. It's an interesting thing, and for people who don't really know why that's like an investment, if you will, a lot of precious metals have historically always retained their value or been kind of an inflation hedge. At least that's over the long term that's been the case. So
it's just money. It's a different form of money.
Right.
And I'm not looking to get a return on it. It's just money.
Right. And less prone to inflation, like you mentioned, those factors of the government and things like that.
I don't trust the Federal Reserve Bank. I don't trust the government. So, it's a hedge. It's insurance. That's all it is.
Right. So we're kind of approaching the, I think, 40-minute mark, and I want to wrap things up without taking too much of your time. But before we sign off, I'd be curious, I'd be curious if you have any tips for people kind of starting from, let's say, square one. So let's put someone kind of in your shoes where they're going for their education. Let's say they're just starting off college or something for whatever degree, haven't really had a career yet. For someone in that kind of position, what would you say they should be focusing on in terms of getting ahead financially? Because we both mentioned starting early is probably the best thing. And while you don't usually have a whole lot of money in college, that's probably when you should start thinking about, if you learn in college, as soon as you hit the ground with your career, you can hit the ground running and get started. So I guess what tips would you have for someone in a position like that who's thinking about getting ahead?
So the first thing is education is the backbone for any sort of success. The question is, where do you get that education? Because most of us assume that the education only comes from the classroom. Now, I went through a lot of schooling, like you talked about, college and law school, but my education didn't come from the classroom. I used to sleep through a lot of my college classes. College is very useful for the right person, right? You want to go become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and you love these fields. Hey, college is very important. But if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, your education is going to come outside of the classroom. And that means meeting the right people, meeting the people that are trying to do something big, meeting the people that are trying to innovate, and through trial and error. I got scammed. I failed in a lot of businesses, and I lost money in different places. But for me, that's real tuition, right? That's life tuition of trying and failing, and you're going to learn way more from your failures than you will any sort of success. So the best thing you can do is just try things. Go out and intern with people, go out and work with people, even work for free, just so you can learn from the people that are doing what it is that you want to do. You just need to get the education, and then you got to do it. And you cannot replace action. You can take as many classes, you can go to as many seminars, you can read as many books, but you cannot replace action. You have to take action and learn from the things that you do. And then, it's just repeating, right? So now you're doing the thing that you want, and then it's a matter of being smart with your money. That means taking some of your cash, saving it for emergencies. That means investing your money. And, there's so many ways you can invest. You don't have to invest it. I started really just with real estate. I was fortunate that I started investing in real estate when the real estate crash happened in 2008.
Right, yeah, no kidding.
So I was fortunate with the timing. You don't have to start with real estate. You can start with the stock market. The stock market's a great place for you to invest. But again, understand that, hey, you will lose money sometimes, and be okay with that. And then learn. Don't just get scared and run away. Come back and learn. There's just so many things that you can do. So you got to go out, start. You got to learn. You got to do. Once you do, you start earning some money. Keep investing some of this money back into yourself. That might be investing back into your business. That might be investing into assets, because not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. There's no shame in not being an entrepreneur.
Sure, yeah.
Invest in assets. Invest in things that will, continue to build wealth for you, and just rinse and repeat. Learn and keep doing better.
I think even when you talk about you have to do something. It's not just education. I think that applies to people, whether you're an entrepreneur or even looking for just a 9-to-5 salaried position. I talk a lot with students about entering the career, especially in finance. And I think, when you're doing that interview, the thing that separates most people is what they did outside of education. We're getting to a point where, there's education saturation in some areas. A lot of people have a commerce degree, and these degrees, they kind of look for that extra thing that you did. What did you do while you were at university? And you funny enough, so you mentioned work for a startup. That's actually something I did right out of university.
Yeah.
Never got paid. The guy didn't make any money, never paid me. But it went on my resume.
Did you learn something?
Sure, I learned something, and it was something I put right on my resume. Was actually something when I was interviewing for my current job, I brought up, and they were very interested in kind of the work we did. It was AI based, and kind of this advanced startup that made me sound really smart when really I was just kind of their accounting guy. But regardless, it's that kind of extra stuff that I think will give you an edge, regardless of whether you decide to go through that more traditional route of getting a job or entrepreneurship and taking that risk.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I mean, it's the dilution of the value of things, right? Like when if you're a financial channel, so your audience understands that, when you print more money and add more dollars into circulation, the value of dollars go down because everybody has more dollars.
Right.
You're seeing the same thing happen with our education system. Back a few decades ago, not everybody had a college degree.
Sure,
which meant that if you had a college degree, you stuck out. Nowadays, it's college degree is like, here, it's everybody has a college degree.
A minimum in some cases, yeah.
And so now it's the value of a college degree has been diluted because so many people have degrees. And so if you want to stick out, you have to be different. And that, when we hire people here at Minority Mindset, it's not what college you went to, it's what experience do you have? What kind of work ethic do you have? What skills do you have? And that's what we're looking for. And if you're looking for a job, that's what you need to show your potential employer. It's what value can you provide? What skills do you have? And what experience do you have? And that experience doesn't have to necessarily come from a job. I mean, obviously you can be a freelancer, you can start a side hustle. The internet has made that so much more accessible. Go to something like Upwork or Fiverr and you can start doing things. And so it's what experience can you show? What have you done? And that's going to provide a whole lot more value than just a piece of paper or a title. They want to see what you know, what you can do.
Right. Well, Jaspreet, thank you so much for taking the time today and chatting with us. It was a really interesting conversation, and I loved hearing your story, and I'm sure our viewers got a lot of takeaways from it. So I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and it was a pleasure being on with you.
Thank you. And guys, make sure to check out Jaspreet Singh's his YouTube channel, his site, all labeled The Minority Mindset. Very easy. I'm sure you guys have heard of him before. A lot of really a broad range of topics on everything from money to investing to even some economics kind of discussion and news updates in some degree. So you're sure to find something that you're interested in. So thanks guys for joining us today, and see you in the next one. Cheers.